Welcome back. This is Mad About Markets, and today we've been speaking about the potential of green energy and India's adoption of green energy, specifically hydrogen, and what that could do to realize
it would make it look so beautiful, right? There would be a factory, there would be greens around, clean water, renewable energy, only if this was true.
Well, beyond the aesthetics, the companies do realize India's potential, and therefore a few global as well as Indian industry players have rolled out the pilot and large-scale projects that can increase green hydrogen production in the country and its end use in the future. Take, for instance, Reliance Industries, which plans to invest about 600 billion rupees to build a 5,000-acre green energy complex in Gujarat, which will house an electrolyzer plant to produce green hydrogen. GAIL, that's another one. It is looking at locations to finalize a 10-megawatt electrolyzer plant, which is going to be one of the largest plants that will be announced or produced in future.
And those aren't the only ones. We have NTPC as well, looking to produce green hydrogen at a commercial scale. IOC is the other one, which is also in the process of setting up a green hydrogen plant at its Mathura refinery in Uttar Pradesh. L&T and JSW as well have plans in this space. For L&T, the plans are to invest anywhere between 10 to 15 billion rupees on their green initiatives, which includes setting up a green hydrogen plant at their Hazira complex. And JSW Energy, on the other hand, is targeting 20 gigawatts of power generation capacity by 2030, and 85% of this capacity would come via renewable energy. And of course, we have been speaking to Ohmium, which too has set the first electrolyzer plant in the country.
Well, Mr. Ballantine, just last year, Ohmium launched India's first green hydrogen electrolyzer gigafactory, and you've also recently raised some money in Series B funding to expand your project. What is the current capacity, and what are the expansion plans?
We launched the plant with a capacity of about half a gigawatt per year, and what we're in the middle of now is bringing in and installing all of the equipment and so forth, so that that number would increase to 2 gigawatts per year of our systems that we can assemble together. As you can imagine, when we look at the size of the economic growth and markets that we're talking about, we certainly do intend to expand further from there and really align with this idea of having India be our hub for our R&D as well as our manufacturing.
But Hemant, we go back to the concerns about uncertainty in demand and the kind of investments that one has to make. But just wanted to understand, is there enough certainty in demand for producers who are actually looking to set up plants, etc., or will that continue to be a bit of a constraint?
No, that is definitely a constraint, because we do need policy that creates that demand. So at this point, there is a lot of talk about demand materializing, but it's not exactly clear how it will materialize. So if you look at the market right now, the players, the developers are seriously looking at the export market more than looking domestically. And that could be a problem in the future, because if you are heavily export oriented, then the local ecosystem will not build quick enough. So they are looking at deploying capital, but then demand is something that is not very clear where it's going to manifest.
It's time now for the yays and mays as always, and I'll go for the yay as always. The first one, of course, is decarbonizing energy use. That's definitely a yay, not only for green hydrogen, but for the world at large.
Take that point, but a concern that continuously all the guests we've been speaking to have been addressing is the capital-intensive process involved in the production. That's definitely a downside.
I take that point, but what does it do? It enhances energy security and it makes us energy independent. That's a big yay. It
makes us energy independent, but the incentive to move towards this new energy is low because you have cheaper alternatives available.
That's true, but think about, us being the hub of the green hydrogen path and actually being a net energy exporter, the possibilities.
We would be, but what we first need, and again, something that guests here have been highlighting, is certainty in the policy framework. We can't really discount that.
And what if we accelerate the renewable energy adoption by the incentives that are coming by?
I take your point, Manglam, but the fact is that there is very little research and development that has gone into this industry because it's relatively new, and there's also no clarity on taxation of green hydrogen. Some of these are really big concerns for the industry.
These are big concerns, and I take your points as well, Ritu. The incentives which are there right now, but there is a lot of uncertainty with regards to demand and the capital-intensive process that it is. So let's talk about this to Mr. Rao as well. Mr. Rao, what exactly is the opportunity cost of transitioning to green hydrogen?
There is a huge amount of opportunity in reducing our import bill. Initially, we may say that the green hydrogen can be blended by converting into either ethanol or methanol by carbon dioxide capture and usage. Similarly, hydrogen can be blended with other fuels. Similarly, in the EV, if you can use hydrogen fuel cells, I think that will also be very, very useful in migrating or reducing our import bill. So that way there are enough opportunities that can reduce our import bill, replacing at least partially the hydro fuels which we are using today.
Well, that brings us to the bigger question, and that is, can India's green future be built on hydrogen? We will start with you, Mr. Rao, followed by Arne. Go first, Mr. Rao.
No, there is no way we can avoid hydrogen. Hydrogen is the fuel of the future because it is not only can be produced in the most efficient manner in future, and it will not emit any carbon. Therefore, in my view, if the world has to achieve zero carbon neutrality and eliminate carbon emission, I think hydrogen is the future. That I think we need to take all steps that are necessary that will make us really a hydrogen economy. And also government is introducing in certain sectors a minimum amount of hydrogen to be used, replacing the existing fossil fuels. So I think that also will help the industry to transition as early as possible.
We absolutely think so. We think the green hydrogen will be one of the key pillars, along with the renewable energy sources, that allows us to really fill in all of the gaps in our worldwide economy so that we can get to a net zero solution. It's going to take lots of different technologies, but hydrogen generation is really one of the key parts for some of these big aspects like long distance travel, long distance shipping, ammonia or fertilizer production, work with steel and metals, all of those aspects. And it's absolutely essential and important that work with renewables make progress too, PV, wind, etc. Without all of those, you can't really go and effectively create the hydrogen molecules you need to then create the green molecules that the economy needs.
Mr. Rao, Arne, Mr. Mallya, thank you so much for joining and shedding light on green hydrogen. For Ritu, me and the entire planet, we hope hydrogen or not, the future of the world should most definitely be green. With that, we wrap up on this edition of Mad About Markets.
Thanks for watching. See you next week.